What is up? It's Friday night. It's the Wood Scopes. You guys, I am excited to be here. I have one of my favorite stories ever being a guest on this show tonight. If you've ever seen the true story, the Disney film called The Rookie, it's a story of a high school teacher who defied odds and started pitching for the major leagues at the age of 35. Jim Morris is a two-time author, a world-renowned motivational speaker. We are delighted to have Jim on here tonight on the Wood Scopes to share a story and to get us up to date on what he's doing today. Without further ado, Jim, the rookie, Morris. How are you doing, Jim?
Good. Just catching up on the fight between Minnesota and Orlando.
Oh no, who's winning?
Well, they're getting tossed, so I guess we'll find out who's going to win.
Are you a basketball fan too?
No, I try to stay out of politics.
Ah, my man, I love it. I love it. Are you let's see, you start out as you played football, right? I mean, before you did baseball, so
Yeah.
you're probably a master at all sports. But what I like to do when I have a guest on the Wood Scopes lately, I've been getting all these like guys who have positive messages,
Yeah.
and I like to get who they are, how they got to where they are, and who they are, where they're at now today. So obviously, anyone who knows who I'm talking to, we're talking to Jim Morris. If you've seen The Rookie, this is the guy. This is Dennis Quaid played him. He's a legend. So you know how he got to where he is. But I'd like to hear your story, Jim. I'm sure there's a lot of bits and pieces we did not get from the movie, from the books, whatever. Go ahead and share. How did you get to where you are?
Man, it's been a long road and lots of mistakes. And I tell people, unless we're making mistakes, we're not gaining any progress. And, we sit still, we die. And so you move forward, you move on, you make mistakes, you gather up yourself, and you learn not to do that again. I had a lot of those moments in my life. The movie already displayed that. My father was in the military. We moved constantly. The one constant for me, other than his abuse, was baseball.
Yeah.
I love basketball. I love football. I ran track. I played tennis until they told me it was baseball or tennis. But baseball for me kind of transcends life. And
Yeah.
one of the things I love about baseball is it's like a chess match. And so you're always trying to guess what the other team is going to do two steps ahead of what they're doing, but they're trying to do the same thing.
Right.
But it coincides with life, and it's a game of inches, and we can come this close to something and then not get it, or we can be this far away from it and then we end up getting it and we're like, how did that happen? And you actually have to go through it and then look back and go, wow, I am where I am right now because of a group of high school kids in Big Lake, Texas. And when I pushed them, they pushed me back, and something I thought was dead and gone, and something even my doctor said you'll never pitch again, ended up being completely wrong. And you come back throwing 12 to 14 miles an hour harder and figure out that the kids who got you there are the ones who could hit you better than anybody else. And that's ironic. And we lived on the West Coast. I was a Vita Blue fan. And during the movie junket, Dennis and I would go into towns and cities and introduce the movie and introduce ourselves. And I got to meet Vita Blue and several other team, Oakland Athletics and Giants fans. All these players are coming out and they're watching the movie, and that's cool. We go to Boston, and I can remember being a 10-year-old kid sitting in Fenway going, man, if I could get on that field one day and not even think that it would take me 25 more years to get there. What are the odds of that? And Hank Aaron signing a ball for me while we were there, my all-star team.
Oh my gosh.
And then sandlotting the ball because we lived in Connecticut. And what do you do in the snow when you run out of balls? You get another ball.
Yeah, yeah.
And so at 37, I'm ringing the closing bell at the stock market, and I'm doing it with Hank Aaron, who was like my childhood hero, who went above and beyond, and everything he did still did it better than everybody. I'm closing it down. So I had to tell him my story. I sandlotted his signature. One of the nicest, most humble people I've ever met in my life. To hear him laugh like he laughed when I told him that story, was priceless for me because he's got a Hall of Fame career to throw up. I've got 22 games. Woohoo! But we share that common thread of baseball. And it doesn't matter if you're in Little League playing for a hot dog or you're a Hall of Famer. Baseball's baseball.
Dude, it's the game that like it I don't know, it brings people together. I have a twin brother and I have an older brother. He's much older than us, and my twin brother and I have always been really close. But we're, like I said, we're Royals fans. And when the Royals started getting hot in 2013, 2014, 2015, all of a sudden we're online with each other every single night. And it really did bring our relationship to a different level altogether. Like baseball, there's something magical about the game. You are 100% right. I'm sure everyone in the audience who's watching this now. And by the way, we're talking to Jim Morris, the rookie, the legend. If you guys think this is a great interview, I would appreciate it if you just click that share button, get this going on Twitter or on Reddit, whatever you're on. Let's get this going. I'm sure there's going to be most people watching on the replays. But Jim, obvious. Let's chat about. Okay, so now your dad was not always the greatest father to you, and had you guys moving from state to state many times with you have a brother, right?
Yeah, a little brother.
Yeah, a little brother, and you just wanted to establish yourself on a baseball team, and found yourself like leaving midway through seasons and stuff like that, and then you have to move to a small town in Texas, and they don't have a baseball team.
No,
Come on.
Our football coach is in the High School Football Hall of Fame for 400 wins and 8 state championships. Said he'd rather watch grass grow than watch a baseball game. So we did not have high school baseball. We had summer league, 10 games of summer.
Yeah. So, okay, so you go there, but you end up going to college and getting drafted by the Brewers, which I live in Wisconsin now, so I'm a big fan of the Brewers as well.
I actually got drafted by the Yankees out of high school.
Is that right? Oh, that's right. Yeah. The year before. Okay.
They're like, hey, we drafted you in the 975th round. Here's nothing, and here's a plane ticket. But I wanted to stay close to home, and that really was never even my thought at that point, was because my grandfather was very sick with Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. And so I wanted to be around to see him and to help my grandmother. And so I go to Ranger Junior College during the week. My coach told me, I'll get you classes that you can pass, which at that time was important because I didn't care about studying, which is funny. Now you become an educator when you don't care about studying when you're young.
Yeah.
You play for me during the week, but on the fall schedule, you're going to go home every single weekend at noon when your classes are over. You're going to have your butt in the pickup truck and you're going home. And that's what I did for 4.5 months. And kissed my grandparents goodbye on a Sunday evening, last Sunday in November. Had to get back for a Monday morning class. I get back to my dorm about 1. My coach wakes me up about 3 because, I didn't study. And he goes, you need to go home. Ernest has passed away. And he goes, you go home and you take care of your grandmother. She's done enough. And he goes, don't worry about finals. You can take them when you get back. And already talk to your professors. I go home. I never go back to Ranger. And Brewers drafted me a month and a half later. And I turned 19, so I thought I was smarter than I was not when I was 18.
Yeah.
And they gave me $35,000 to chase my dream. And I thought, I am rich. And for 9 months I was.
Yeah.
But it's funny when you look back to the things that make us who we are. It's because of what we've chosen to walk through and not walk through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Drafted by the Brewers, show up spring training, my first spring training. I'm like, the whole organization is here, man. There's like 100 guys here. And I found out it was just the pitchers. I thought, uh-oh. And everybody was as good or better than me, most better. And, I'm striking everybody out at home. I'm like, turn the TV on in 5 months, I'll be on TV.
Yeah.
And I was not the product that I produced in my first spring training. And we had some guys whose backs hurt because they were running into fences trying to catch home run balls.
Yeah.
What happened? I struck out everybody at home. So everybody at home hauled hay and played football. But I'm going to set the world on fire. I just fell behind. We left Florida and I moved back home to be with my grandparents. I lost a lot of baseball time. But again, we wouldn't be talking right now if everything would have worked out the first time.
Right. Right.
And we go through what we go through to see the other side. I was supposed to play professional football too when I went back to college. Draft comes and goes in 93. I don't get drafted. 2003, I'm doing a speech in Corpus Christi after the movie comes out. I am there with Nolan Ryan's son, Reed, who's there to bring in a team to Corpus. Me and then another, this is not racist anyway. I'm just telling you the breakup of the crowd. It was a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So there's like 3 white dudes and everybody else. And so I do the speech. Reed gets up, introduces the fact that they're bringing a stadium in and they're going to have minor league baseball for Corpus, which is huge. They're huge baseball fans.
Yeah.
Everybody gets their autographs, the pictures. Everybody leaves. The guy in the back comes up to me and he goes, I don't know if you remember me, but I said, sir, I've met a lot of people in the last few years. He goes, I was your football agent. I go, yeah, back at Angelo. Lost like 150 pounds. I'm like, man, you look great. He goes, well, the doctor told me I had to or die. I go, well, that's a deadline for you. And I said, do you still work with your daughter? He goes, yeah. And we heard you were coming here to talk. And I came up here to ask you a question. He said, ask me whatever you have on your mind. He said, in 93, when the Steelers were going to draft you in the second round to punt and kick, why'd you not call back? I said, what are you talking about? He goes, the Steelers are going to draft you in the second round to punt.
Get out of here.
And when you didn't call back, they passed on you and they told everybody else you had no aspirations to play in the NFL.
What?
For 30 seconds, I was the maddest human being on the planet.
I bet.
But I'll tell you this, because of my grandparents and the 3 years that I spent with them and the faith they instilled in me and watching them and how they lived, I got it.
Yeah.
If I'd have got that dream when I wanted that dream,
yeah,
I'd have been a spoiled brat.
Yeah.
You see enough of it. You and I watch baseball enough.
Yeah.
You know who the brats are.
Oh, yeah.
They make themselves seen and heard. But at 35, not supposed to be there. Supposed to be getting out of the game at 35, not getting into it. It was a different perspective for me.
Well, I mean,
I've always loved, but it's also, it meant a lot more. I wouldn't be where I am right now if I hadn't gone through what I went through. If I'd have played football, there's no movie. There's no wife that I live happily ever after with. There's no raising 5 kids in our home so that they got up, hers, mine, ours. Well, we didn't have ours because our kids got mad and protested. It was a peaceful protest. You don't need any more kids. That's all I got to say about politics right now. But we raised 5 kids. They're happy. They're healthy.
Yeah.
They're living their lives. And my wife and I have been married for over 20 years now. And
yeah,
it's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
That's phenomenal. Like, just thinking about like the, obviously we've all, my wife will tell you, I watch that movie at least once a year. I mean, everyone has a favorite baseball movie. And I know, like I hear stories of like, Michael Orr was in The Blind Side and he didn't like watching it. I don't know if you like watching The Rookie or not, but for me, it's like, it's not so much like I love, Dennis Quaid and act. I love the story. And the scene where you're going, you made a promise to these guys, and I feel like we're just skipping a whole entire chapter. But you made a promise to these baseball players that they win districts, you're going to go try out for the Tampa Bay Rays. You had a sneak there. I don't know if that's a true story, how much truth there is in that movie. You had a sneak there. You get there, and I've heard you in other interviews talking about this, that when you threw a few pitches, like you thought they were shaking the radars because it was broken and you were pitching really slow. Your humility, even Dennis Quaid's, portrayal of that is so exactly what you're talking about, because you're not the brat. You're like the guy who, I want to take care of my kids. I'm just doing this because I made promises. You could tell this is a changed man, and you got there because of just being loyal to everything that you preached. You know what I mean? So,
my grandfather had this saying, if you make a promise, keep that promise, because keeping your word is who you are. and you're going to be remembered for if you kept your word or not. So if you ever
Mhm.
make a promise, you live by it, good or bad. I did, and the kids were right, and I was way wrong. I thought I'm going to go be the fat dude who's over the hill who goes, I'm going to be a young kid now, and then I find out, wow, you're throwing 100. That's awesome. By the way, you're getting sued because you've been throwing 100 at high school kids too. And then you find out that's why the kids hit so well.
Yeah.
And then we get knocked out of the playoffs by a kid who can't throw out a wet paper bag. And I'm the reason for that too. They were way out in front of everything.
Yeah, they're swinging before the ball leaves his hand.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think the biggest compliment for me teaching was the first day I took that job. The teacher next door came and introduced herself, and she goes, "And I don't like you." And I said, "Well, that's awesome. I did." She goes, "You're a coach, and all you care about is winning."
oh my God.
She's the first person I got a letter from, and it was our IT teacher, and she was keeping her classroom open for those kids. And I know it sounds like a long time ago, and it was, so they could listen to me over the internet, pitching in Durham and then in Tampa. And so
Is that right?
she goes, "No, nobody has ever changed the lives of these kids out of any book that's ever been taught more than you have, given them life lessons." And I thought, wow, that is amazing.
Yeah. So you had just to reiterate, because I don't think we've mentioned this, but you take over the coaching job at the Reagan County. That's
Yeah.
what it's called, Reagan County. And the coach prior to you, the last 3 years had a total of 3 wins, 1 win each season. And you
Yeah.
were like, okay, I want to when I take over, I want to make sure I have that team that we beat every year.
Yeah.
But not only that, but you got these kids to like believe in themselves. Yeah, 8 players on a 9-person team baseball. How do you make that work out? And then
Well,
get to
first thing you do is you do something that you're not supposed to do as an educator. You offer a free A in your class to anybody who play baseball for you. And and then when you have two takers and they can't play baseball, but they make straight A's, you go, okay, that gives us 10 kids. So I guess we're going to do this.
yeah,
And then you teach them everything that is not expected of them,
yeah,
right? Our jerseys have our team colors. They're our high school colors. Our names are on these jerseys. We represent this school, this property, our team, our town, our families. We represent a whole lot more than what we think we do. And so we had to change the environment completely. And if I ask these kids, my grandfather also had this saying, don't ever ask anybody to get dirty unless you're already dirty yourself.
yeah.
And so when the kids would run, I'd run with them. That's pretty much how we seeded and propagated the field. As we had our spikes on, and we'd seed the field, water it, and then run across it in our spikes. And there you go, we aerated it. And then we had a great field, and the kids did it, and they saw that, and that's their home. And we changed that, and they didn't want anybody coming in what they had built and beating them there. They just respected it too much.
That's awesome. Tell me about the deal you made with them.
They hear another coach talking to me, and I didn't know anybody heard this. This person said, "You will never teach these kids how to win. They're losers." And then he put his finger in my chest and he goes, "And so are you, because you're too nice. You may be one of the best baseball coaches I've ever seen, but you're too nice." He destroyed 2 years of work in 90 seconds.
Oh wow.
He wasn't there when I got there. He came in after I got there.
Yeah.
He was in charge of everybody. And that's what he told me. And other great lessons that we don't need to go into right now. But for that fact, so when the movie opens up after the nuns, we lose 15-1 and 15-0. That's how it happened. What do we do? Stuff you're also not supposed to do as an educator. I send my kids down the line. I stood on home plate and I said a prayer. What can I do to help these kids?
Yeah.
How can I push them without breaking them? How can I get them to dream? How can I get them to overcome themselves so that they can see themselves succeed and not fail and set themselves up for success? And the answer was just like, boom, go down there and teach them what Ernest taught you. And that's what I did. I taught them lessons that my grandparents taught me.
And how did that conversation go?
I said, you guys have to go out and live life. You can't let life live you. I said, if you have a dream, go out and chase it. Nobody's going to give you anything. And that's a problem we have even today. If with you and me, Jeff, we see this and we look out and we go, everybody wants it handed to them. They don't want to
Yeah.
work for it.
Yeah.
If you want to work for it and it's worth it, you get to play baseball. You don't have to play baseball.
Amen to that.
This is your choice. And it's only going to go as far as you guys want to. And so we're going through this. I'm going to jump ahead real quick.
You're
A
fine.
few games later, we're winning and we're winning by a lot.
Yeah.
And then we play terrible. And the person who had said what he said to me that the kids heard is watching everything unfold. We give up like 7 runs in 1 inning. And I'm like, timeout. And I didn't want him to hear anything I said to these kids.
Yeah.
I took the scorekeepers, the athletic trainers, all the players, everybody out to center field. And I said, we can play like this and we're going to go home. If you want to go home, let's do it now, but we're not going to embarrass ourselves like this. This is our home. People come here to try to beat us. We're not doing this.
Yeah.
This is going to be your choice. Stay and play the way this game is meant to be played, the way it's been played since the 1800s, or go home. We got up and we scored 30 runs.
What?
And no more was talked about that. He was furious because he didn't know what I said to him. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I didn't curse. We can win or we can go home.
Yeah. 30 runs?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude. So like obviously they make this deal with you, coach.
Yeah. If
You have your dreams.
we do our part, then you try out again. And I said, okay, I'm 35. I've had 9 surgeries. The doctor said after he cut out 85% of my deltoid, I can never pitch again on a professional mound or anywhere else. Oh, by the way, your moms feed me every time we get on the buses with fresh homemade tortillas. That is not exactly a playing diet. That's a coaching diet.
Yeah.
And on and on. They're like, but why are you telling us to chase our dream if you're not willing to do it yourself?
Right.
And I said, you're 18. You need to shut up. They said, Coach, what if we start winning? I said, I can't do that just because you guys win a few games. At 28, the doctor said you will never, ever pitch again, physically impossible. But Coach, the way you teach us the game, we know your heart's still in it. We know what the other team's going to do before they do it. We can't even hit you when you throw batting practice. I said, that's because you can't hit. I can't do this. What if we win a district championship? Again, I did what every parent does. And then I did what every parent does. I caved in.
Yeah.
You guys win a district championship, I'll find a trout. In the back of my mind, I'm going, you're old and fat. And it's going to be more embarrassing than you can possibly imagine. And then the kids start winning and then they start hitting me. And then I'm like, oh, this is going to be way more than embarrassing. I can't get high school kids out. Then we're playing for a district championship. We're down by 2 runs going in the last inning. And history would dictate we're not good there.
Yeah.
We score 6, we hold them to 0, we win. One of the best sights I've ever seen. They're hugging each other, they're hugging their parents, hugging the trophy, they're taking pictures. And for the first time in my life, I got all the lessons my grandparents taught me. And it only took me until I was 35, so men are slow, to get what he meant. It's not about me, it's about we. What can we do? How can we do this? How can we solve this? How can we win? How can we support each other?
Then they said, Coach,
It's your turn.
it's your turn. And you were like, oh, shoot.
Yeah, oh no. And I got to go do this. This is going to be way bad.
And
so
how,
I had found a tryout to go to at Dallas Baptist, 5.5 hours away. I got my 3 kids at the time. I'm going to get caught by my now ex-wife. I can't get away with this.
yeah.
And every major league team is going to be represented. That's a lot of people to embarrass yourself in front of when you're old and fat. It happens that my father and I were talking at the time, and he goes, hey, on the day that you're supposed to go to Dallas, there's a tryout here in Brownwood at Howard Payne University. Says here the first 50 or 60 kids that get here get to try out. So you better get there early because they're going to count you twice. Thanks, Dad. Love you. Doug Gasaway, the scout for Tampa, he's there. When I drive my kids up, June 19th, 1999, left field line. I'm looking at all these kids getting out, tall, thin, athletic looking, brand new bodies, brand new gear. I look down at my gut, hang over the elastic band of my softball pants, which is not the picture painted in the movie. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis.
I don't know what I've done here. And my son looked up at me and goes, you made a promise. It's time to get out. And I said, you're walking home. He was 8. It was only 90 miles. He'd have got there eventually. But he was right. I get my kids out. We go sign up. Gasway looks at me, goes, how many kids you bring the tryout? I looked down at my 3. I said, I got 3. He goes, no, 2 tryout. I said, I got me. I said, I made a promise to a group of kids that if they did something nobody thought they could do, I'd try to do something I know I can't. Yeah. Be embarrassing. You'll get a great laugh out of it, but I'm doing this. Either you're going to let me throw or I got to find somebody else who will because I made a promise.
Yeah.
When I get done, he looks up at me, and this is when I had hair. Why didn't you just shave your head like every other? And I said, where were you 3 months ago, man?
Exactly.
He goes, they got to throw from the outfield. They have to hit. They have to be timed a 60-yard run. Do you want to run? I said, I don't run.
Yeah.
I'm a coach. I'll help you time them. And I waited for 4.5 hours while everybody tried out, changed diapers, played games with my kids, had lunch, sunburn, all of it. We're in Texas. And then he calls me out and he hands me a ball. The next thing I know is he's coming up to me going, I don't know. I remember you at Ranger. You were a football star. Everybody wanted to make a picture out of. And I don't know what you've done your time off aside from eating. But the first pitch you threw without warming up was 94. Everything after that went up to 98. And I was stunned. I thought, you've got to be kidding me. But like every little boy inside that head, I throw gas.
Yeah.
And then the next one is, and you're an educator and you've been throwing 98 at high school kids. You're getting sued.
Going to jail.
And then I go home and he goes, don't be surprised if you get a phone call. It wasn't 1, it was 12. And they wanted me to come back and throw. And this is where when you make promises, you either keep them or you run.
Yeah.
And I call my kids and they're like, hey, they want me to come back in 2 days and throw again to see if I could actually throw that hard. If I do well, they want to sign a contract. I failed at that every single time I was supposed to be young and talented. Yeah. Over here, I got a job in Fort Worth at a great big high school and the opportunity to work with more kids in a bigger environment. I'm successful at this. I'm good at this. Over here, not so good. I'm going to teach. And they're like, you told us if we ever had our dream in front of us, you'd chase it. I said, well, I was lying. And so 2 days later, and rained so bad they had to hand me a brand new baseball every pitch, sliding up to my knee in mud. Half my high school kids holding my kids in the rain. It's lightning. We have metal spikes on. Exactly what we don't do. And I'm a coach and I'm out here doing it. 98 every pitch. Signed a contract. It was a minor league contract. I took a pay cut from teaching to play minor league baseball. Now you know how poor I was.
Well, I mean, the thing I'm really curious about at that point, like you get that call back from 12 different scouts. Like, are you like obviously surreal? Like is this really happening? Are you nervous? Are you excited? Are you like I want to know the emotion you were going through those 2 days or a few days before you signed that contract.
I signed the contract on the spot and I was on a plane in 2 days. And yeah, I was nervous, but I called my new athletic director in Fort Worth and I go, this is what I'm doing. He goes, but you're old. I know, but I'm going to go do this. And he goes, when you get done being a kid, come home. We got 2 days and then we got football. I said, yes, sir. And the next time he saw me was at the ballpark in Arlington and he was asking for my autograph.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I can't believe it. Like, all right. So obviously the documentaries I've seen, when you get to Arlington, because I mean it wasn't an easy walk to Arlington. They didn't sign you and you're in Arlington. You had to play 3 months, I think, in
Yeah.
in the minor leagues, and you had to deal with like all their gimmicks and the young kids, the bus rides, and the being away from family, and the crappy foods and the crappy hotels and all that. But you finally get called up. Like that moment, what was that like?
Probably the most surreal moment of my life. Other than the nurse putting the baby in your arms and your knees buckling, this was as a person of faith, this is something you're like, this is not logical. It shouldn't happen.
Yeah,
You look at every reason, and you're a science teacher. It really shouldn't happen because the physics, all of it, you shouldn't be able to bend like that and throw like that when you're 35 and
yeah.
overweight. And then you do. When I walked into the clubhouse in Arlington, the first person to come up to me had just gotten his 3,000th hit a week or so before. And it's Wade Boggs. And they've been hearing about me all summer. He's like, that is the best story I've ever heard of. And I'm like, I'm still a fan and a coach. And I'm like, you're Wade Boggs. You like chicken. And he laughed at me and hugged me and walked off. And Fred McGriff, Roberto Hernandez, Jose
Jose
Canseco,
could say,
it was amazing. And everybody was so nice. It was just, I do not have a negative word to say about anybody. It was awesome. It was
yeah,
better. You have this dream when you're a kid. And then the first time you run in the pitch, it is so much better than anything you ever could have dreamed.
that
That's the
that
easiest way to put it.
that moment, the bullpen phone ring. Like, did you know it was for you?
No, I thought, oh, they just want me to warm up in front of 40,000 people. I've thrown 3 days in a row in the AAA playoffs. No way they're putting me in. And you're in. Oh, I guess I have to go do this now. Let me tell you, 40,000 people screaming and cheering is a little bit different than 25 kids in a classroom.
Well, no big deal. I mean, it's not like it should be nerve wracking. You only get called in, and you have to face Royce Clayton for your very first batter. But that waltz you did from the bullpen to the mound, like wow, you had to have been on cloud nine. Is this really happening? You pinching yourself all the way up there?
It is bizarre because when I left the bullpen, it was like being a kid again, and you're smelling the leather and the dirt and the grass. And you realize and understand why you fell in love with baseball to begin with.
Yeah,
And it's not so much a competition to beat somebody else, it's to make yourself better
yeah.
in something every single day. So the run in from the bullpen to the mound, a few of my failures, or a lot, that roller coaster, but also the good things too. All of it flashed in front of me. And I had to tell you that by the time I stepped my spikes onto the dirt of the mound in Arlington, I wouldn't change one thing about the way in which I got there. That made me who I was.
Amen
And
to that.
at 19, I wouldn't have understood that like I did at 35.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's something no one on earth could ever take away from you, Jim. That's you worked your tail off your whole entire life. You listened to great mentors. Obviously, just reading some of some of the scripts of your books that you've written. One of them is about listening to the right people and not listening to the wrong people.
Yeah.
Obviously, you listen to the right people, and you get up there and you're pitching in the major leagues at the age of 35. You have a baseball card out there. I think it says oldest rookie ever, right?
Yeah. Something like that. Can't get no respect. I feel like Rodney Dangerfield.
But still, that's amazing. Like you're 35, you're walking on the field for the first time, and did they announce that at Arlington? Like, coming to the field, Jim Morris, the
Jordan
oldest
Hernandez
rookie.
was my best friend in the big leagues, and he said they had my story up with my picture talking about everything I did, and even flashed to some of the kids that were there. I had no idea because when I left the bullpen, it was the noisiest place on the planet, and I heard people talk about this forever, but when I got to the mound, I couldn't hear anything. It was
Yeah.
just zoned in, so I didn't hear anything they were talking about. But apparently, yeah, they were talking about it.
Was it talking about over the loudspeakers, or was it just radio or TV
Yes.
and
Yes.
all the above?
Yep.
Yeah, that's you don't hear stories like this every day. I mean, it's like I said, you get one perspective from the movie you watch. Dennis Quaid, great job, but hearing it from you, like different angles, different, it's what I want to hear. Um, I've been getting guests on the Woodscopes that try to motivate, and I love the who you are, how'd you get there, and where you're at now. Obviously, you've done a lot of motivational speaking for people because you do have a story and you do live by what you preach, obviously. And where are you at today?
Man, we're getting back into this post-COVID world and trying to get back on schedule. And it was a little better last year, and hopefully this year it'll be even better. And I hope some of the grim things they're predicting for us don't turn out to be that way, because for 3 years people were hurt, mostly the small people
Mm-hmm.
like us. All us
Yeah.
peons were told to quit living while everybody else that has money kept on doing whatever they want to do.
Right.
Now it's time for us to catch up. And then now we're going to do all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I want people to draw on their own power. I don't think I understood this as much before those kids talked me into it as I do now, that we can overcome so much more what we give ourselves credit for. Who knew? Who knew I would have to quit baseball because of something that would later be diagnosed as Parkinson's? And then for 15 years later and numerous surgeries, now they're saying, oh, you don't have Parkinson's anymore, and everything's fine in your brain and it's working great. We just have to try to be the best version of us.
Hold on, I gotta stop you for a moment. This is something I haven't heard yet. They diagnosed you with Parkinson's.
Yeah, I had a deep brain stimulator put in.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
And now they're
In,
saying,
in 2001, I was out in LA working out with Dodgers at Dodger Stadium, or
yeah,
else at the Curl and Joe Clinic working out, either way. And then literally 5 days I drove from LA to Vero, where they still had spring training. I drove through Texas, saw my kids get there. First day of spring training, I'm playing catch with another lefty pitcher there. I'm afraid to play catch. I'm like, what happened? And we're doing bunting drills and we're doing pepper drills and everything else. I can't put a glove on a ball. I can't put a bat on a ball. I teach people how to bunt, and now I can't do it. And then running and everything else got messed up. And then you have all these nerve issues, and yeah, eventually diagnosed into Parkinson's, and too many concussions, and one being a boy, two playing football,
mm-hmm,
and being knocked out a couple of times, falling out of trees, car
mm-hmm,
wrecks,
mm-hmm.
and it just builds up.
Wow.
But for how somehow the brain equalized itself out. The only surgery I've had in the last 25 years that I volunteered for was to have my deep brain stimulator taken out. And my neurosurgeon, who's also a friend, made me wait 2 years to do that. And so we knew in 2018 that I was well, and I'd done the nuclear test and everything's fine. But then he made me wait until 2020 to have it taken out just to make sure. And I can run again. I can normal physical levels that I couldn't do for years. I would go to a speech, I would sleep. I would get up, I would talk, I would go back to bed, sleep, go to the airport, sleep there, get home and sleep until I had another speaking
Yeah.
for years. And now I'm starting to live again. And so it's like getting another second chance. We have a lot of second
Wow.
chances.
Is this a side of you that we could catch from your books?
The Dream Makers book has everything packed into it. Even some of the rookie stuff, we got permission to write about that in a brief surmise of past stuff, and then we jump straight into the end of baseball forward and what I've been through on that journey, and what my wife has been through, what my kids have been through.
I am going to definitely get those books. Yeah, to me, it doesn't sound like it's anything short of a miracle. that you were able to take that. I don't know what you called it, that in your.
Yeah, right here. It looked like I had two round things right here, and I called him. That's when I made fun of it because he goes, "I'm going to put it behind your hairline." Yeah, right. Okay, that didn't work out too well, and so I said, "That's where my horns were cut off." Then he took them out and he put them flat again, and now I'm still bald, but it's not behind my hairline anymore.
You look great. You look great. But like I said, it sounds like nothing short of a miracle. I mean, Jim, I've already kept you longer than I told you I would keep you, a lot longer. And
Right.
man, you're the best. You and your wife are, honestly, I sent here. I'm gonna tell a quick story. I've been wanting to interview you for years. I'm most of my platform is on Twitter. I checked there, and I'm like, well, he doesn't really use his Twitter that much, and yada yada. So finally, I'm like, one day I was like, he has a website where he talks about his motivational speaking and engagements and stuff like that. I don't really have any money, but hey, he can't say yes if I don't ask, right? So I threw out the email, and honestly, I don't check my emails very often. And at this time, I don't think I checked my emails for like 6 months. I had 10,000 emails on my phone. And one night I got bored. I'm just delete, delete, delete. I'm going through. I had your wife's email in there, and I swiped it, and I was about ready to hit that delete button. And I was like, wait, does that say Morris? And I clicked on it, and she's like, yeah, we'd like to. Yeah, Jim would be happy to be. I was like, Jim Morris, like the baseball player? Wait a minute. So I start reading it, and I was like, that was a month and a half ago. So I respond to her a month and a half later. She comes back to me. She's like, you're gonna have to remind me, who are you again? Like, okay. So I had to explain it to her again, but you guys are the best. I had a little conversation with your wife. She says you guys have I told her I had a special needs child at home, and she said you guys have a big heart for that kind of stuff. And not many people, not I shouldn't say not many people, but it takes a real
And it takes
genuine person to have a heart for people with special needs. And yeah, I love you guys for that. So
well, thank you and best of luck to you.
likewise, like with Jim, I'm going to catch up with you again in the future. We're going to get updates. Anytime you have a new book or anything, I would love to help you promote it. Anything you want. I owe you the world, and God bless you and your wife.
Thank you,
And
sir.
you're the best.
God
So
bless
you
you.
guys, this is Jim. You guys go follow him on Twitter or whatever platforms he's on. Go buy his books. Go watch the movie. It's on Disney Plus, I think. But God bless you. And again, thank you very much.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Have a
All
great
right.
weekend.